I have just loved seeing your work and seeing how our lives parallel. And the more I get to know you and the more I see your work, I am more inspired by you. So I really want to thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. And thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Art and wellness and all the ways they connect are kind of they're my world, and they're the most important thing to me right now, outside of family, I guess. And so I love to share what I know, and also to join you in your community, because that's the beautiful thing about a creative community or even a healing community, is just you're continually making new connections and building your community and building your support system and building your knowledge in those areas, and that's what we all need a lot more of that.
Yeah, I feel like when you feel safe and have a place to belong in that space, this is where we're having these conversations. And the Coffee Love Sunshine Summit is all about setting intention to have a conversation with gratitude to become inspired. And when we're inspired, we're following our intuition, and we're just making this beautiful full circle. When you listen to your intuition, then you have a next right action, and you can set intention with gratitude to fulfill that action, and then you're inspired to take the next action. So um, it's a joy for me to live that way and to have come up with the Coffee Love Sunshine formula, because it's so simple. It seems simple. um, and I would just like you to share, Delight, how you have come on your art journey, and how teaching, you're in this space now where you're teaching and you're just doing this creative uh, work, and you're also enjoying yourself. You're happy in just doing the creating. So if you could share a little bit of our journey, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Absolutely. And this part of my life journey hasn't been, I've only been teaching this type of art for just over 2 years now. But it was something that I just felt 100% compelled to do. And there was no question that this was the path, this was the next step. And you talked about intuition and the intuition telling us what to do next. Sometimes I feel if you're following your intuition, you don't even have to necessarily make those decisions of what to do next. They just kind of happen, or you instinctually do them, which is pretty magical. So I have been creating mixed media art for just over 15 years now. First career, I was a portrait photographer, and then I went into teaching. I was a classroom teacher for 15 years. And the last 10 years of that, I spent working with youth teaching in a mental health treatment center, which was really special. And we spent a lot of time using art to work through mental health issues. So that was something that was really familiar to me. And I had a personal issue with one of my daughters. I have three daughters, and I very sadly have my middle daughter is addicted to opioids, and she's 19 now, but I not lost her physically, she's alive, but I lost her in my world when she was 16. So trying to manage that, anyone who's gone through that type of grief and loss knows that there's a learning curve in all of it, and how to manage it, how to take care of yourself through that. Um, just what to do and how to move forward. And I ended up having to stop teaching. I went on a medical leave, and my world became pretty small. My anxiety was enough that I wasn't driving, wasn't really going out. So I was at home, and my art, which had always been my passion and my hobby, and the thing that I knew I wanted to do, but there was a career I was in the midst of, and that took priority. So art became forefront for me, and it was just incredibly healing. To me, it encapsulates all the things we need when we're trying to heal from things. The intuitive process, a chance to express your emotions in a way. If you don't have the words for them, you can put them out onto the canvas and kind of maybe become more aware of them, or maybe you don't even need to be aware of what they were, but they're out there and it's cathartic. And so after about a year of doing that, just in my house, just madly creating, it was kind of what got me up every day. And it's what I would think about. What I wanted to do on the next canvas is how I would manage to fall asleep at night, because falling asleep when you're going through grief like that is really hard. And I very quickly, with a background in education and just feeling really strongly that this was such a beautiful thing. I loved doing it. It was really powerful, really meaningful, and I wanted to be able to let others know about it and to share what I do, how I do it, and the freedom in it. Because with this type of mixed media, there's no rules, there's no mistakes, there's no experience required. You don't need to have a plan, and if you do have a plan and you do something entirely different, that's okay. And I wanted to be able to offer my perspective on it and also my unique process, which involves a lot of layers and a lot of fabrics and different materials and papers and mementos and all these layers in my art that are fairly unique to me. Obviously, I'm not the only one doing that, but it's a unique process, and it's really a special part of what I do and how I do it. And I wanted to be able to share that with others. So for the last 2 years, I've been creating art workshops and slowly growing my following. And I have had at this point thousands of people do my art workshops. So that feels pretty fantastic. And the community I've built in the process is so special. And I send out weekly newsletters, and the feedback I get from them is again so special. And yeah, I'm incredible. I feel very grateful, and I feel really fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing right now, and to do it and to get to share it with others so that they can experience all that goodness too.
What was the like defining moment? What your intuition said, I need to do this? Or was it a bunch of little things and then you were just at this point?
Now, do you mean specifically with starting to create art workshops?
Yeah.
Um, just a really strong, almost visceral feeling of need. It was like I needed to share this. This was, bigger than me. I've been given this gift, and it was healing me and helping me. And then in turn, I needed to pass that on and carry the torch and create things that could allow other people to have those types of experience. And with my background in teaching, and with the years during COVID where I was teaching online, it wasn't a big stretch for me to take what I was doing and start to create these courses. And it just right from the beginning, it felt so right. And over that time, I've kind of really narrowed in on creating art that for people that are on a healing pathway. And that's made it even more powerful and more special because I'm connecting to the right people. And I think that's really important too.
Yeah, I think just by putting yourself out there, there are people who have been praying for that community, like a place to belong, to be able to share. And, I can't repeat enough, like feeling safe in a space is, I think that's like one of the most important things, and to feel safe creating. Um, there's a lot of times in our lives when people have sort of shut down our creativity in some way, and maybe not intentionally, but just there may, sometimes there's like oh, you're not going to be able to do anything with that, or you're not going to make any money doing that, or you know, there's these things that sort of shut you down in a way. And I feel like when I'm creating art, all of that stuff goes away, right? You're not overthinking anything. You're not in that space of negativity because you're focused in on these beautiful colors and these beautiful, whatever is happening and you're in this flow. And I love that you are basically getting out of your head and sort of getting into your heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had the pleasure of interviewing someone about plant medicine, and she had a course called Become the Medicine, or Be the Medicine. That's what it was. And she was a plant uh, medicine practitioner. And I feel like your art is, be the art because you can, you have freedom in that. Um, how do you convey to your clients, like, to become free in that space and be without like self-criticism?
I think, well, there's a lot of conversations around that. So let me just backtrack for a tiny bit. So my main course that I offer twice a year is called Personal Portraits, and it's in a live Zoom program that runs for 6 weeks. So we're in that community, and it's a very safe, supportive place where a lot of emotions come up and a lot of things happen. And so in that type of community, when I'm creating, I share my inner dialogue as I'm creating so that they can kind of understand and see, step by step how I'm just exploring and I'm making mistakes and I pull things off and I cover things up and I just drop things on and see what happens. And so they're seeing exactly what I'm doing and how fun that process is. And that's usually one of the big light bulb moments is just, wow, they see the end result in my art and now they've had a chance to kind of see all the things that happen on the way there, and that it's a really long involved process, but only because I want it to be, because it feels good while I'm creating. And with my recorded courses, I do a lot of the same thing where I'm just talking through everything I'm doing, but I also do voiceovers where I go a little deeper into, what happens during intuitive art creating, or about setting intentions and allowing the art to be meditative and healing. And so there's just all these different layers to it to make sure that hopefully there's something there that's going to speak to everybody who's going through the class or the workshop.
Yeah, I think sometimes too, just allowing the art to be what it is going to be without um, having any, expectation of that. Because I sometimes have been like, oh, I'm going to create this thing, and then it it looks nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And then it's always so much bigger and so much better and so much more beautiful and has so much more depth and so many more layers. And I think that happens when you're working through something. um
Absolutely. Yeah, I kind of equate it in my workshops to the idea of healing in layers, because with mixed media art, you're creating in layers, and we really do. We grieve in layers, we heal in layers, and so you can kind of have that connection with your art and your own processes you're going through while you're creating it.
right,
You
right.
step away, you let a layer dry, you come back, with fresh eyes and fresh feelings to go at it again. And that's what we have to work through in our lives too.
Yeah, I think healing any traumas and going through any grief process is exactly that. It's this kind of mixed media art is a great metaphor for that. And also the other thing about mixed media art is you don't need to be an expert in anything, or you don't have to be good at drawing or good at painting. There's just so much freedom in mixed media art.
Yeah, there really is. And that's one of the fun things with my personal portraits class is that we're actually creating portraits. And some people create a portrait of themselves, whether it's them right now, a memory of their past, the future, or if it's someone special to them, a loved one that they lost, or just someone that they care a lot about. And the roadblock of creating a portrait, we kind of just push right out of the way by doing, I show a few different transfer methods where we can get at least the outline of a face on the canvas and get right down to the fun of the mixed media and creating the portrait. And that's a pretty special experience. And depending, some people have no experience at all in mixed media or in art, and some people are very experienced artists, whether in mixed media or another type. And the beautiful thing about that mixed media processes like that is it can be as detailed and intricate and complex as you want it to be, or it can be loose and simple, and they all end up being beautiful and special. And no matter, and your starting point is going to maybe dictate where you get to, but you don't all need to be at the same starting point to dive in and have fun.
Well, I think the spirit, the universe, God, source, whatever is coming through is just coming through to, be brought into the world, whatever that thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And art is just one of those ways if we allow it and don't think about being blocked or whatever, but just in the doing we get this beautiful creation that was born of processing whatever emotions we were going through.
Absolutely. And they can end up as sort of a time capsule of what you were going through or what was happening during the time you were creating it. And that makes them so special too. I sell my work in a local gallery, and when I hear that one of my pieces is sold, there's just a whole bunch of different emotions, but one of them is just it's gone, and I don't know who has it and if it's okay and if it's going to be loved enough, because you do, like, it's you that you've put into the painting. And so there's a connection there that I still can't really sever.
Right. And that's I think that's part of the healing process too, is then learning how to let go, learning how to then let go of that
Yeah.
creation. Because yeah, it is a piece of you. It definitely is. But now it's going on to inspire somebody else, or, so that's the journey that the artwork is on.
Yeah, and yeah, it absolutely. And I now know I can ask whoever was in the gallery who sold it. I get as many details about who bought it as I can. So I kind of, can imagine where it is.
Right. Um, I know your art process, there's a lot of intentional healing. And I know in your flower child, this new class or workshop that you're doing has these uh, flowers and all of their healing properties, which I thought was really amazing because I had just had the interview with this lady in her plant medicine. And so, could you tell us a little bit about your flower child?
Absolutely. So, Flower Child is where you're essentially creating a silhouette of a woman from the back, so no skills required again, which is beautiful. And then you're creating essentially like a bouquet for her hair. And how it actually started was I had a vase with flowers I painted that I didn't really like anymore. And I ended up turning the vase into her hair and the flowers into this flower piece in the back of her hair. And then I created a few of them because I just thought that was so much fun. So that's where it came from. But what it combines that is really special is it's intuitive, because you kind of I walk people through just exploring what they're going to use and why and see what happens. So you've got the healing power of the intuitive art creation. And in addition, you're working with flowers. And so I spend a little bit of time, a fair amount of time, going a little deeper into the flowers and the healing power of different flowers and how different people are attracted to different types of flowers. And so it's a chance, and flowers are so healing. So it's a chance to spend this time thinking about flowers, learning about flowers, creating flowers out of little bits and pieces of fabric and paper, and doing it in an intuitive way. So it's really special. You mentioned earlier about how sometimes we do something we think it's going to be simple, we're creating and it gets bigger and bigger. I originally was creating, I'm a part right now of a festival that's happening. It's called Flowers Magic Art Fest, and it runs for most of the month of July. And I was tasked to create a 30 to 60-minute lesson for that. And this course was my original plan. It ended up being 5 hours worth of video. And I realized, okay, so this is its own thing. And now I need to make something a whole lot simpler for the art festival. So that's kind of how it came to be.
I love how when you when I teach, I find these places where I think I'm going to teach this thing about this, and then when you come together with the people and you start teaching, the message ends up turning out to be whatever that group of people needed. And do you find that happens a lot with your classes, even
Um,
though?
I do. So I at the gallery where my art is, I do teach in-person workshops once a month. So I definitely experience it there. But they're fairly short classes. Where I really experience it is in the personal portraits workshop where we're live on Zoom because that's exactly what happens. And each time it runs, it's so different because it depends on the group of women and the place we're all in. And there'll often be someone who's going through something a little bit harder. And so there's a lot of sort of gathering around that person and propping them up and working with them. And so that can end up directing it as well. I'm in the process in January, it should release, of creating another workshop called Soulful Stories, which won't be a portrait, but it's the same idea. And where we're using a lot of personal mementos and letters and different things and creating a piece of mixed media art that way. And it will be, again, a 6 week live Zoom workshop because they're really special. They're really different than doing a recorded video workshop on your own. And there's a lasting impact and usually an ongoing community that's created. So I just love that.
Yeah, I think witnessing like the fluid journey of so many women together, being able to support them however they need support in real time. I think that there's something really magical and sacred, I think is the word that I think of when I think about women getting together and really just supporting each other. And you have you feel okay in expressing whatever is coming up for you and then being supported in that and then using the art to process whatever's coming up for you. So
Yeah,
both of those.
and
um,
the internet offers such an amazing opportunity that way. I live in a village of 800 people where there probably is maybe one person in the whole community who would understand what I do. So these aren't, my creative kindred spirits. Whereas with the internet, I'm able to connect with people globally. And we all get together and we're together even though we're apart. And so I'm able to connect with those people, those like-minded people, people that are interested in the same things as me, and that that makes it pretty special too.
well, that's one thing. I would have never met you. When I created the Coffee Love Sunshine Summit, I just asked with intention for the universe to please put the people in my path that were going to make this not just a success, but to um, really connect with people, like have a place where people are connecting and where they feel at ease and where they can find the thing that they've been searching for to inspire them. It might not be art, it might be plant medicine, it might be, you know, a speaking engagement. There's so many things here. There's so many people who are following their life purpose, listening to their intuition in the summit. And in creating it, I just wanted people to come here to be able to listen to a conversation and then be inspired by the two people connecting in the conversation to do whatever their heart is asking them to do.
Yeah, no,
So,
absolutely. And it's such a beautiful offering. I listen to podcast interviews a lot when I'm creating, and it's just for that, there's always those the gifts of like little morsels of information or the inspiration or some new insight, or someone new that you want to go and learn more about. But there's always something in there, for anyone listening.
yeah, and the aha moments a lot of times are just a little change in perception of something, we could have all artists speaking about something in the summit, and there can be one person that says something just a little bit differently and you go, oh, like now I get it, right? So that is, I'm just, so grateful. I can see in my mind all the people having aha moments that are, they're like, oh, now I get it, and they can move on from whatever place they were stuck, and then move into a place of being connected in some other way. So that's really what this whole all of these conversations are about. And
Yeah.
I go ahead.
No, no, actually, you go ahead.
Um, so when I was looking at your Instagram, I saw this beautiful poem that you wrote, and I just think it articulates so beautifully um, your practice and your process and how you're relating to people, and um, how we can go through this journey uh, together. If you would go ahead and read it, I would
Yeah,
just
absolutely. So I received it as an email last week from a woman named, well, I received an email. I'm a part of a yoga collective, and there's a woman named Ali Chisholm Smith who sent out an email newsletter, and she talked about this topic in there. And it just left me so inspired that I ended up creating a poem with some insight from what she wrote, and then obviously my own take on it. And I'll just pull it up here. So, the path within. Chaos calls us to pause, to listen. When noise crescendos, we learn to hush and seek the stillness within, creating not to halt the world's conflicts, but to soothe the battles within. My purpose, to cherish this life, to honor the gift of living. Dharma guides me, serving the world through self-care, through nurturing peace. Taking time for oneself, a key to this sacred path. Listen to your heart's gentle whisper. Let it light your way, a candle's tender flame. Protect, nourish. Let its glow lead you with clarity, with calm. The world shifts when we find inner peace and joy. One moment, one practice at a time, we begin the change.
thank you for that. Just hearing you read it after I read it myself, I there were even more snippets in there that like just open up your heart to this whole thing, listening to your heart's desire and then taking action towards that. And
And one step at a time. And
yeah, don't be
yeah,
overwhelmed about whatever the outcome is you think it needs to be. Like, just listen to your heart and take that one step.
And I
You
and
don't
I
have
think
to.
a really important part of it too, that I think I tried to get the message in there, was that just about slowing down, that the only way to do this, to have the healing, to make the connections, to make the art, to do the writing, whatever it is we want to do, is we have to slow down. We have to slow down our life. We have to slow down and limit the amount of external input we have coming in. And because that way you're creating space, you're creating room for that inspiration, or for those things to happen, to hear what it is that your inner self wants to say, to feel it. My life is so much slower than it was 2 or 3 years ago, and it was a long process to slow down. And I got to the point where I was forced to slow down because life kind of said, yeah, you can't go at that pace anymore. But the lesson I've learned from that is that that's where all the good stuff is when you slow down and are able to notice things when they come up or when they cross your path.
I agree. I I feel like you live a bigger life with less stuff in it because you have more time to be present and take notice of all of the details. And I think love is in the details. Um, so, yes, that was great insight, like just beautiful insight from your words. So, thank you for that.
Well, thank you for finding it and appreciating it.
Is there anything else that you want to share today?
Um, I think I have a few little notes written down. I feel like I've um, pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Um, yeah, I think thanks for the questions you asked because it did give me an opportunity to share what I had to share.
Well, I want you to know I am so appreciative of you spending your time here and sharing your heart with us. And I look forward to seeing what else you create, not only in your artwork, but the workshops for all of the people who are taking them because they're creating something beautiful while they're going through the healing process. And that's what I love doing as well. So I'm really grateful to have spent this time with you to get to know you. And you deserve all the blessings coming your way and being in service of all the women that you help. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. I'm not sure. I think you're going to include in the notes with the interview that there are a few different free things that I have to offer if
Yes,
people are
everything will
interested.
be on this
Okay.
page. So anybody out there who wants to connect with Delight at her website address, everything will
So
be on here,
there's a
Instagram,
free mixed media art
free.
workshop that's a great introduction to what I do. There's also a 30-day creative inspiration guide. And if you're new to mixed media, there's also a list of 100 uncommon mixed media materials as a place to get you started. So those are all free things that I have, and I think they'll be shared for you.
Thank you for being so generous with all of those. And it's what a great way to get started, right? Like that's a lot of inspiration right there just to do it, to just get going. I can
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why it's out there.
thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you probably in one of your classes. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, I would love that. And thank you so much, Natalie. That was beautiful.